The head Nenshi has accomplished what many observers thought was impossible. Last October, he was elected mayor of what is often called Calgary's most conservative city. A child of Muslims from Tanzania, Mayor Nenshi grew up in Calgary's Marlborough district. He holds a Bachelor of Commerce degree from the University of Calgary and a Master of Public Policy from the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. He has been an instructor at Mount Royal University's Bissett School of Business and has co-founded 2 citizens groups aimed at improving Calgary's civic government. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Calgary's 36th Mayor, Mayor Nenshi.
Thank you, Nirmala, and thank you, Shirley, for your words this morning. What a great day. What a great opportunity for all of us to be able to come together and not only talk about an important issue, but move from talk to action on an issue that is so important for all of us. You know, many of you have heard me before speak of the great gift of our community. And the great gift of our community is, I believe, that we live in a community that is generous in sharing opportunity, where every one of us has the ability to succeed, to be the very best person we can be. I've often suggested that Calgary and Canada are the ultimate areas, examples of meritocracy, a place where no one really cares what you look like, or where you came from, or what your last name is, or who your daddy was. They care about what you bring to the table, what your ideas are, what your ability is, what your passion is to make those things true. And I believe that is true. However, I believe we can do better. And I believe that there is work to be done to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to come to that table, to share their ideas, and to share their passions to make things happen. And we need to do a better job. All of us as a community need to do even better. Don't get me wrong, we have something very special. And we have something very special that is not, in fact, shared everywhere in the world. And sometimes we do take it for granted. You know, we do live in a world where in the last 6 months, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, the President of France, and the Chancellor of Germany have all said that in their context, multiculturalism is a failure. And it's not for us to question their reality. It is, after all, their reality. But it is to us to not only ensure that we're telling the story loudly and proudly of a place where multiculturalism works, where diversity works, where pluralism works, that's this place right here, but that we are also working hard to ensure that it continues to work. And I think there's commensurate responsibilities on a number of us to make sure that this happens. There's certainly a responsibility that we, as members of minority communities, as people who are or work with new Canadians, have ourselves. And that is a responsibility to not become insular, to make sure that we are actively working to integrate into that community around us, to make sure that we're using our skills, our hands, our hearts, our minds, to make sure that we are assisting the development of all of our neighbors, regardless of where they come from. And that's something that we as new Canadians get. We understand that we've been very blessed with having the opportunity that we have living here, and that it is our responsibility to make sure we give back to the community. But there is also a broader requirement from the community. And some of you were in the room last week when I was speaking to a group around immigrant mentoring, but I'm going to repeat the story that I gave you last week. And I want to tell you the story of Guido. Guido has been a Calgarian since 2007. He comes from Colombia. He was a political refugee. He has a wife and young children. And when he came to Calgary, he realized that, in fact, there was quite a bit of work that he could get that paid reasonably well and allowed him to support his family. And he started working in construction. And he worked in construction for some time. And it was friends of his and people within the community who said to him, Guido, you know, you're capable of so much better. And his initial argument was, his initial idea was to argue, to say, you know, I'm making a very good living. My dreams, my hopes, and dreams for myself don't really matter. I'm making a good living, I'm providing for my family, my kids will go to university, my kids will do fine. And we hear that so often, don't we? So, if we think about that story, right? We can think about the levels at which we were able to help Guido, and hopefully he'll do well, and I know he'll do well in this role, and even if it's only for a year or two, he will certainly have the ability to take this Canadian experience and move forward. But that's not because I'm a great guy, right? What really happened here, I am a great guy. What really happened here was how three different things came together. The level of policy, the level of programs, and the level of people. So if we think about policy, and many of the things that Shirley told us about, these are things that we need to be working on as a community, right? We need to make sure we're doing good accreditation of foreign qualifications. How many years did it take us to figure this out? How many years did it take us to realize that we as a country were engaging in the ultimate bait and switch by telling people in other countries, you can only come to Canada if you have all these qualifications, if you meet these certain number of points on our scale. And oh, by the way, when you get here, you'll never actually be able to use those skills that we required you to have in order to come here. We're starting to figure it out. In fact, I was making a lecture to the folks at APEGA, the Association of Professional Engineers, Geologists, and Geophysicists in Alberta, and I was all ready to go with a barn-burning speech about how they need to open up their profession to people with foreign accreditation. And luckily I was speaking after lunch because I started at lunchtime talking to the folks at the table about what they did, and they said, oh, you're 3 years too late on making that speech. We used to be really bad. But in fact, in our most recent crop of newly accredited professional engineers, 1/4 were recent graduates and 3/4 from people from other countries. And we've totally changed. And I know the engineering technologists have totally changed. I had the great privilege to work down the hall from the Bridges to Canadian Nursing program at Mount Royal University. So we're getting there. So the policy level, we're getting there. We still need to do more. The programs are also incredibly important. If Guido hadn't had that program at Bow Valley College, allowing him to do what he did, he wouldn't have been able to break out of the trap of the jobs that were not below his level of qualifications. So we need government and nonprofit organizations in the private sector to make sure that these programs are being offered. And in particular, we need an absolute emphasis on language education. Learning English or French is the absolute key to success for all new Canadians. And I think that that is an area that we need to focus on more. But what's even more important is that third level of people. If Guido hadn't had a network of formal and informal mentors in the community, both from the Colombian Canadian community and in the mainstream community, he would not have been able to know what programs existed. He would not have had the emotional and social support in order to do what he was able to do. And that's where all of us in the room play in. We need to make sure that folks understand that they don't have to defer their dreams, that there are opportunities that take hard work, that take sweat, that take sacrifice, but there are opportunities for everyone to be able to succeed in this country. And we have to make sure that those doors are always open to those people. I'm getting way beyond between you and the actual real work you're doing, so I'll wrap up quickly, but I do want to say that the City of Calgary is a key player in all of this, not just as a government, but also as an employer. The City of Calgary has about 15,000 full-time employees. In any given year, we give about 23,000 T4 slips of people who have worked for the city over the course of the year. It makes us, by some counts, by most counts, the second largest employer in the region. So we as an employer have to set a standard. We have to model behavior for other employers on how to build a truly inclusive and diverse workforce. And we're working hard on it. We're working hard on making sure that our career opportunities are open to new Canadians, to people with disabilities, to First Nations people, and make sure that we are setting an example for other organizations to follow. It's one of the nice things about being a government employer is you can get out in front of the parade. And we will, in fact, continue to do that work. We are right now not at the cusp of a labor shortage. We are actually in the middle of a labor shortage and no one has noticed yet. I was speaking to a group of very senior executives in Calgary recently, and I said, how many of you are starting to feel a bit of tightness in the labor markets? And every single hand in the room went up. This is a tremendous opportunity for those of us who work with new Canadians. We know that once the first new Canadian is hired in an organization, once the first person with a disability is hired, once the first First Nations person is hired in an organization, and they turn out to be great workers and great assets to the organization, that opens the organization up to so many more. We know that. We've seen it over and over and over again. And what we need to do is look at this constricting of the labor market as a remarkable opportunity to get that first person in the door, as a remarkable opportunity to stick our feet into those doors to make sure that the door remains open for those that come behind. So, we're going to go through some difficult times over the next couple of years because of the labor market shortage, but for the people in this room, I hope that all of you see that as a remarkable opportunity to double down and redouble all of our efforts to make sure that we are placing people in the professions that make sense to them one person at a time, because those first people will make all of the difference to us. So I wish you a great day today. I know there's going to be great networking, a great opportunity to meet people. Make sure you check out my colleagues at the Calgary Police Service and some of the work that they're doing. But I know that every one of you will come away from this day changed. And I very much thank the Calgary Multicultural Center and the University of Calgary for giving us the opportunity to be together today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Nenshi. That was really thought-provoking.